Welcome to the Big Red Zone preview for Saturday, January 19th, 2013. Alongside Chris Harrington and Cornell assistant coach Mike Gray, I'm Matt Schultz. These Big Red Zone previews, as always, brought to you by Advantage Sport and Fitness in the Trip Hammer Marketplace in Ithaca, D Squared Construction, and Defense Soap. Defend what you have built. Guys, Cornell goes out to Providence and Boston to take on Brown and Harvard tomorrow. Brown first, 1 o'clock start. We'll have coverage starting at 12:45 on 1160 ESPN, and 5:45 we'll be back with you for the Cornell-Harvard duel. We'll go through it weight by weight, try to break this thing down, see how Cornell will do. But Chris, let me start you off with a general question. Last week, Cornell blanks Princeton 42-0. Do you see them blanking either Brown or Harvard?
Brown could be a possibility. There are some close matchups there. I don't think Harvard will get blanked, though. No.
A little bit too good. Well, let's start out at 125. Nahshon Garrett, 8th in the rankings right now. The freshman from Chico, California, currently 25-3 on the season. He'll face Billy Watterson of Brown and a freshman, Jeffrey Ott of Harvard. But Ott's had an up and down year, but he's a very talented young wrestler. Mike, how do you see Nahshon's day playing out?
I think Nahshon's going to have a great day, and Billy Watterson's a tough kid. You know, he's placed in the East before, but I'm confident Nahshon will handle him. But I'm really excited for Nahshon to wrestle Ott because he wrestled in the finals of Binghamton, had a close match with him, and I'm just excited to see his progression, see how much better he's gotten, and I expect him to major Ott.
Yeah, and what we've seen of Nahshon Garrett, he has gotten significantly better and more confident as the season has gone on. At 133, Bricker Dixon finds himself in the lineup once again. 133 was your weight, Mike, in college, so you know this one well. Bo Martino, a senior from Brown, Ryan Oslieb, a sophomore from Harvard. How do you see Bricker matching up against those two guys?
I think Bricker's been getting a lot better, since he's been in the lineup, since he's been a starter. Each week he's progressing. Still needs to work on bottom. That's one of the positions that he's struggling with, but he's put a lot of work in this week, and in the past weeks he's getting better on bottom, and I think it's really going to show. He's been great on his feet. He's been great on top, and I think he's going to complete everything to be great on the mat this weekend.
And Bricker Dixon still trying to grow into that 133-pound weight class, but he's been doing a better job of late. He's 8-6 on the year at 133, 13-8 overall. At 141, Mike Nevinger has moved all the way up to number 6 in the rankings. He's been wrestling really, really well. A guy that just keeps getting better and better and better as the season goes on. A guy who finished 7th at NCAAs last year, so always a tough opponent. He'll face Cortland Choate, a senior for Brown, and number 10, Stephen Keith of Harvard. But the fact that Keith is ranked may be a little deceptive. Nevinger pinned Keith in 2 minutes and 42 seconds at the Binghamton Open and beat him 9-2 out in Vegas. So Nevinger may have Keith's number a little bit. Do you see him having a real strong day, Chris?
Well, I think he is going to have a strong day. Stephen Keith's a quality opponent, though. He's a returning All-American. And also, he's coming up from 133. So earlier in the season, there is a transition period from going from 133 to 141, which could be playing into some of those scores. But I do see Mike Nevinger being the quality opponent that he is, should handle both opponents this weekend.
At 149, Chris Villalonga back in the lineup after his concussion. He's ranked 15th in the nation, 13-7 so far this season. He'll take on, for Brown, either Grant Overcashier or Zachary Reese. And from Harvard, looks like Todd Preston, the freshman, might get the nod. Nobody else for Harvard at 149 has registered a win. They've wrestled 4 or 5 other guys, all 0-4, 0-6, in that over range. Preston, as I said, 1-1. So looks like he may get the nod. How do you think Chris will return from that injury, Mike?
I think he's going to return and just be fine, I'm really interested, and I want to see him score as many points as possible, just really scoring from all 3 positions. And personally, I'm a little excited for him to wrestle Todd Preston because they're both Blair guys, so that'll be a fun little matchup.
A little New Jersey rivalry there. Well, 157, Jesse Shanneman back in the lineup after his injury. He's 6-1 this year, hasn't wrestled a whole lot because he's been in and out of the lineup. But for Brown, he'll face C.J. Howard or Philip Morano. And Harvard, number 8, Walter Peppelman, of course the brother of Cornell's Marshall Peppelman. Always fun to see him out there on the mat. Walter, a senior now. He's 6-2 so far this year. Hasn't had a whole lot of action. Is Shannon a guy who can give Peppelman trouble, Chris?
Peppelman's coming off. He had a deferred semester. In Ivy League, you can't redshirt. So eligibility-wise, he needed to take that semester off. Peppelman's a stud on top. He can pin anybody. But Shanneman's pretty tenacious on his feet. I think if he can keep it on his feet and keep it off the mat, Shanneman can give a bout there, give a go to Walter.
And against Brown, Shannon a big favorite?
A huge favorite. Yeah, I think he should handle either man that he wrestles there.
Well, 165, I have a feeling we know who the favorite is. Number 1 ranked Kyle Degg is the favorite in every match he goes into. He's 18-0 right now. Pinned his Princeton opponent, Judd Ziegler, in 37 seconds. It didn't look all that difficult. So he'll face, for Brown, Zach Kolzinski, and Harvard, Devin Gabo. Gabo, a freshman, Kolzinski, a senior. Chris, total amount of time he's on the mat on Saturday?
Pinning your opponent is a lot harder than he makes it look many times. But I think you'll have bonus points in both matches. Will either guy last through a whole match? I don't know. That's hard to say. But I think bonus points in both matches are very likely.
Yeah, I know you don't want to go out on a limb. I'll say 2 periods. He wrestles 2 full periods on Saturday. At 174, Duke Pickett or Marshall Peppelman, but it looks like Marshall Peppelman is starting to get a little bit of a nod here in the locker room, Mike. How has that battle played out lately?
It's been a tough battle. In the Southern Scuffle, they pretty much finished, right with each other. They beat the same guys, lost the same guys. But recently, Marshall's kind of taken control and has been getting a nod, so I'm going to give him a go this weekend.
And that's good to see. Marshall kind of taking
Yeah.
over and taking what should have been his to begin with.
Yeah, in this sport, you got to earn everything you get. So it's taken him a while, but he's earned it, and he's back in the lineup now, so it's good to see.
And we'll see Marshall taking on, for Brown, Giuseppe Lanzi or Ricky McDonald, Harvard, Cameron Croy. Chris, how do you think he'll do against those 2 opponents?
Croy's a pretty quality opponent, tough matchup there. I think he should handle Lanzi. But this is a good statement weekend. Cornell's looking for someone to take over and take control of this 174 weight class, and it's been back and forth all year, and maybe this is the first step forward for Marshall to take over the 174 weight class.
Cameron Croy 15-8 on the year, so that might be one to watch out for. Peppelman versus Croy at 174 Saturday evening. 184, number 4 Steve Bozak looked pretty good last week against Princeton, against a pretty quality opponent. The senior is now 7-2 on the year. He'll take on either Ophir Bernstein, the sophomore for Brown, he will take on, and then Josh Popple, sophomore for Harvard. And Bernstein has some experience against Bozak. Bozak pinned him in 1:51 at the duel last year against Brown, and then Techfall him 16-1 at EIWA. So Bozak has had Bernstein's number, but Mike, do you see him having Popple's number just as much?
In the past, Steve has wrestled Popple, and a couple of other guys. Craig Scott wrestled Popple in Vegas when he was filling in for Steve. And Popple's tough on top with cross wrist tilts, but I see Steve having his number and really just raising his level and keep getting better every match and continue on that process of getting back to the Nationals.
We certainly expect Cornell's 2 defending national champs to go 2-0 at Brown and Harvard. 197, Jace Bennett had a really bad match against Lehigh, but then had a really good match against Princeton. Ended up pinning his opponent in a little over 4 minutes. And he takes on either Sterling Hecox or Augustus Marker of Brown, and then he'll take on James Fox against Harvard later in the evening. Bennett, 20-9 so far this year, did pin Hecox in 4 minutes and 17 seconds out in Binghamton in case he does face Brown's Hecox. Chris, how do you see Jace doing? Do you think he's going to respond from that Lehigh loss and continue to progress forward?
I think the coaches and the fans just want to see consistency here and see the real Jace Bennett step up. Either way, I think Jace is favored in both matches, but consistency is a key for Bennett because he can go out and pin anyone, but as we've seen, he can lose to almost anyone as well. So consistency for Jace Bennett is really the key in these 2 matches.
I look for Jace to try to maintain some of that consistency throughout not just these 2 matches, but the rest of the season moving forward, as he wants to be an NCAA qualifier, as do all the guys in the Big Red lineup. At heavyweight, Striker Lane gets the nod. Jacob Aiken-Phillips was out there against Princeton, got a pin, wrestled real well. Striker back on the mat. The senior's 13-9 this year. He pinned Brown's Marcos Aranda in 2 minutes and 19 seconds out in Binghamton earlier this year. He may get Aranda again. DJ Ingham a possibility as well. Ingham a sophomore from Fulton, New York. So a lot of times teams will get those semi-local guys to start against their sort of local opponent. I mean, Fulton not too far from Ithaca. So you may see Ingham out there. And Nick Gadzik, freshman for Harvard, will be Lane's evening opponent that against Harvard at 6 o'clock. So how do you think he'll do?
I think Striker will win both his matches. We're looking for him to put a good effort in and really just focus on scoring lots of points, not winning the classic heavyweight battle 3-1, a takedown in the last minute of the third period. Really just score the first period, build your lead, and just put a good performance in for both these matches and really looking for Striker to pick things up a bit and start to raise the intensity level out there.
And once Striker gets on top, he can be awfully tough, so
Absolutely.
possibly able to
Yeah.
work for some pins in these two matches. We'll see how it goes. Looks like Cornell's a heavy favorite in both. Chris, how many matches do you think Cornell will win on the day out of 20?
I think they win 19.
19 out of 20. That's good stuff. I'm thinking 18-19 is probably the right way to go. Cornell is wrestling real well right now, and Brown and Harvard are still up and coming. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. Once again, the Brown duel coverage 12:45 on 1160 ESPN and 1160ESPN.com. The Harvard duel we'll have for you starting at 5:45 p.m. online only at 1160ESPN.com. But right around 6 o'clock, the Syracuse basketball game line, and we'll swing you right out to wrestling. Hopefully we won't miss anything, but if we do, maybe just a little bit of the start of Nashawn Garrett's match. And hopefully he doesn't win it too fast on us. But should be a real fun weekend of wrestling. We thank you all for joining us on today's Big Red Zone preview, brought to you by Advantage Sport and Fitness, D Squared Construction, and Defenso. Defend what you have built. See you next week.